Hey, Eric, do you have a minute to open up the door to that room where I usually sit? Because I may need to bail in the middle of a team meeting, and I might need to take a
Yes.
call and be there.
It's a challenge.
Hey, okay. Yeah, about 3 weeks ago.
I must have, it's because I would have taken it.
You did?
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
so
they're
that was
kind
my
of a
action.
lot of, they're mostly
Yeah.
housekeeping
Okay, I don't know
changes,
if I
they're
actually-
not.
I didn't send out an announcement. But it was, I did put it on Facebook, but,
I don't check Facebook too.
yeah, no.
There are a couple
Yeah,
of
he
things
died on
regarding
May
investment.
20. It's not bad, though.
Yeah, there's
So
some
you
things
done
there,
with
but
it,
I
or-
feel like.
Well, there'll be at least one more trip.
A good
for
hour.
when they put the stone, yeah, they'll- in Judaism, there's a whole ceremony called unveiling when the stone is put on, usually 11 months. We'll see.
11 months.
I know, right? But it doesn't even have to be. For my mom, it was like 18 months, a year and a half.
Oh.
So it, you
Well, I
know,
it
when they
just
finally
takes a
do
while
the
to get
stone.
them. In Minnesota, you couldn't, used to be you couldn't even bury them until winter was over,
Wow.
because the ground's all frozen. You can't,
In Judaism, you have to bury within 2 or 3 days.
if they're in a
No.
frozen,
Wonder what they do. I wonder what they do.
they probably put them in,
You grew up in Canada, what do they do
I
there?
I don't remember ever this being an issue.
oh, great, well, because they got held at some place.
Oh, you know what they do? They pre-dig the.
Hi, good morning.
The funeral homes pre-dig the hole, and the cemeteries pre-dig holes, in it, you know.
This
and-
must have been like a city.
No,
in a city.
so most of the cemeteries are, yeah, cities.
Yeah, I lived in the country.
So it'd be just
Thinking
like
that's-
that. Yeah, but I remember, that's what they do. They have them ready for all the anticipated deaths in the winter season.
You stretch it out,
In the
is
big
that what it
city.
is?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you can't dig because the ground is
So
frozen.
you can actually walk around and you're 99
I want
years
that
old
one.
and say, yes.
boyfriend was
Uh-huh. Oh, I think that's an adamant television, Lord, well, I don't remember shopping on it.
Yes, so I was there
Am I not on Fremont?
Uh-huh.
in the men's club.
Got it, and you were like, oh. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't like other scales. My scale lies to me, just fine. My
Yeah.
scale's bad enough. I don't need
Actually,
that.
I thought like, you know, the old fashioned, yeah, justice.
Yeah.
Good lecture.
Actually, yeah, you don't get the worst is the doctor's office scale. I'm like, whoa, that's not what it says at home.
No.
Yeah.
But I believe it.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, it's 11:02. I do want to respect everybody's time here and get started. There are a few announcements that I wanted to make prior to us beginning here. And as people begin to roll in, please let them know what the situation is as well. But to start off, unfortunately, Harshita is not going to be here for the next week, maybe a little more. There was a family emergency, and she had to take an emergency flight out to the East Coast last night. So she's going to be out there indefinitely, probably for sure this week, maybe even next week, depending on some circumstances. So please be patient with us when it comes to marketing requests and things of that nature, along with potential tech situations as well, because Harshita has always been the one to help us with that. But I just want to let you guys know, if you guys have any specific requests at all in regards to marketing or anything like that, please let me know. I'll be able to get you guys connected with somebody to help you out. but just wanted to let you guys know. It's a family emergency, so let's wish her and her family well here. And one other thing that I wanted to touch on, Bay East dues. It is June. This is the month where dues are renewed for pretty much everybody when it comes to being a part of Bay East. So just want to remind everybody, please be on the lookout for emails that you have connected to your MLS account. You should have received one at the beginning of this month, towards the end of last month, and another one to remind you when your personal dues are set to be paid. Mine was due yesterday, so that's probably along the lines with all of your guys's as well. So remember, there are payment plans for Bay East if you can't drop the whole amount all at once, because I know it's pretty expensive. But again, this is an investment in your business, and you need to be a part of an association wherever you are. But thank you, everybody. Just wanted to let you guys, just wanted to knock those items out of the way before we get going. But you know how I'd like to get started. Let's hear some good news from some of these people, some of you wonderful people out here. What's something good that has happened in some of your guys' lives these recent last couple of weeks that you want to share with the group here? Could be personal, could be business, whatever it may be. And you know I can sit up here until I hear from a couple of you. So somebody, yeah, Pat, there we go.
I have an offer coming in on my condo.
Oh, on the
We're waiting for loan approval, but I haven't seen it yet, so I still have to see it. I might be, hopefully I'm not jumping the gun here.
On a condo. An offer on a condo, no kidding.
I know, that's unheard of right now.
100 days or something,
Oh.
man.
Well, congrats with that. Hopefully that loan approval gets pushed through. Mahi, you just officially closed. Yeah, you want to talk about that?
So, my third transaction, it closed on time. So there were some issues on non-permit building and all, so they removed it and it was closed.
Wonderful, and that means you're officially graduated from the PC program, right? Congratulations, Mahi. Love to hear that.
You know everything.
Let's hear one more. Eddie,
I'll
yeah.
give you one. About a week, was it a week ago, a week and a half ago, we had a mentor lunch and learn here that Stephen facilitated, and we had some of the mentors who are giving back to the productivity coaching program here and helping kind of build future real estate professionals from our group of newer agents, and it was a great meeting. It was a room of people who really care about our industry because they want to have an effect on our industry and the level of professionalism we see in our industry, and really want to help new agents grow. This business, when I got into this business, I don't know that it felt as collaborative as I've experienced, here at KW in general, and over the last several years with Stephen's program. I mean, we can build each other up and all have success. It doesn't have to be a competition. So it was just a great day of mentorship.
Love to hear that. Yeah, Aziz.
Since we're talking about collaboration, I remember last week we were in contract on an off-market property, and that was a referral from a residential agent in Castro Valley. And hopefully we'll be removing contingencies in 30 days and closing 45, which is unusual in commercial, but so that's a good thing.
All right, yeah.
Love to hear that.
So you got a referral, I gotta push this one. You got a referral from a residential agent in Castro Valley.
Yeah.
And will they get a referral fee?
Of course they do.
All
Of
right.
course they
So
do.
there are opportunities to refer your clients to a commercial broker in our office if you have, if they have commercial needs.
And again, Aziz is the KW director, the director for KW Commercial.
Yeah,
So
I'm an ambassador for KW Commercial for Northern California and Hawaii region, for our region.
there you go. So we have one of the biggest guys.
And a past
When it
president,
comes to
I think
KW
a past
Commercial.
president for the
Yeah.
commercial
Yep.
association.
He is with the Oakland Advisors Office, and which is a part of our family. So again, our network is huge. So don't forget to reach out if you guys have any questions or if you guys have any specifics. But I have one last thing I want to share before we move on. Twice a year, all of Advisors Leadership meets up for kind of a retreat, sort of mastermind brainstorm for what's up and coming. And we met last Friday. That's why our staff was out of office. We met at the Berkeley Luxury Portfolio office. And I just want to say that there's a lot of good things that are coming within the advisors world. And I'm excited to slowly share those with you as they start to roll out. But one of them, again, keep your ears peeled for when we're gonna launch the Leads program for all of you guys. If you guys haven't heard, we are beta testing a Leads program right now for the whole entire office. And as we continue to build that out, we are continuing to make small improvements so that it's a well-oiled machine for each and every single one of you when we do roll it out. So again, please keep your ears out for that, along with some other exciting news that we have coming up. But other than that, does anybody have anything they'd like to share, any gratitude, any wins, anything like that? All right, let's get moving then, because we do have a couple guest speakers that I want to give them ample time for today. Mega Agent Camp is coming up sooner than later. The price has increased to $9.99 now. Again, I'm not going to sit on this too much. Great time, great experience. Hear from some of the top agents throughout the nation. And that's all I got to say. I know that you guys have heard me talk about it a lot, but if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Bold. Bold has launched in the Palo Alto and Campbell offices. Unfortunately, we were made aware a little late on when they launched, so we did miss the first initial step. As a makeup for it, the team leader from Palo Alto has decided if any of you want to go to the second step of Bold on June 23rd, she has made it aware to me that she will take a few of you for free for making up for missing the first step.
That's nice.
So if any of you guys want to take advantage of this, please let me know. Again, if you guys close 2 deals after Bold graduates within the first 6 months, you guys will get reimbursed for the whole thing through those 2 deals. So I don't see why you guys wouldn't want to do this. Not only is it a huge networking opportunity to meet agents from Palo Alto and Campbell, but it's an amazing experience. I know Mahi just attended the last Bold, and she just got half of it reimbursed from her closing that just closed. So again, it's definitely worth it. And if any of you guys want to go to the one on June 23rd, please let me know. I'll get you guys set up with the team leader from Palo Alto, and she'll take you as a guest. Actually, Mahi, do you want to touch a little bit on Bold and your experience staying with you, Stephanie?
So, I met a lot of agents, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, it was a great experience. There was a lot of agents, just to get to know from different offices.
Yeah.
That comes from that referral, when it's needed, right, if you're not locally in that city. And it was just really fun. Jesse, who was the coach there, made it just incredibly fun for all of us. And yeah, and then you kind of just learn the ins and outs of, real estate, and not just real estate, it pertains to, other aspects of life. That's mindset, that's kind of how I took it.
Yeah.
Has anybody here participated in Bold before in the past? Anybody else have any general comments about Bold and their experience with Bold? It's I think of it as an opportunity to get a little kick in the pants,
Yeah.
to get yourself motivated, your mindset in the right place, and your business goals kind of in alignment. We are independent contractors, largely responsible for our own futures.
Yeah.
And Bold is one of those experiences where you're challenged to get up and take some action. So.
Yep. And it gets you into
right.
action. It gets you into action. It's a 6-week program, 7-week program, if I'm not mistaken. I took it, I think, after the first 2 months of being here at the Pleasanton office, and it was wonderful. So it's a great way for you to get your name out there, meet some people, and actually get into action.
Still get a Bold trophy?
I do have, it's in my office. But again, like I said, as a makeup, the team leader from Palo Alto said that she'd be able to bring a few of you out there just for free, kind of as a makeup. So again, take advantage of this. The next one is in Campbell, and this switches to Palo Alto because they're kind of co-hosting it. But if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I will introduce you to that team leader from Palo Alto. Stephanie, do you want to talk a little bit about the few slides we have up here?
Yeah, sure. So I have a couple things to share. So one is a great new thing that we have to cater towards 1099 employees. So, we are now able to have a mortgage solution for them. You know, on a normal channel, typically banks would ask for a 2-year history, you know, of a contractor, 1099 income base. So now we're able to just, they just need to have 1-year history of that in order for us to just give them some mortgage solutions. So that's a huge deal, especially now with the job market, you know, people losing jobs. And, you know, they're probably not fortunate enough to go back to a W-2 and they have to be a contractor and be on 1099 base. So, you know, if we open up this, you know, type of program and, you know, for them, you know, they can now get financing for it.
Can you think of an example of a 1099 employee?
1099 would be.
Oh, that's a
I'm
good
I'm making a
question.
little joke. I'm making a little joke. It's everybody in this room, right?
That's right. So, you know, if you just have a 1-year history, I mean, we do still require 1 year, but, you know, you don't have to go to the 2 years. So, that'd be great. Second thing I want to share is that next week I am having a class to talk about some of the hottest trends of loan programs, right, that is being offered out to clients as well. So just give you guys resources in case if you guys do come across certain clients that think that they cannot qualify for a loan, there's many programs out there for them. So sign up if you're interested in learning. I'll be having snacks and drinks provided, non-alcoholic drinks provided. And then the third thing I want to share is Mortgage Advisors every month has a class. It's called a Mortgage Advisors One-on-One. It happens every second Wednesday of the month. So if you guys are interested, it's for seasoned agents, it's also for new agents, and it's just kind of a refresher of, you know, certain topics that we talk about each month. So, you know, look out for that email. Harshita does send those out. Register, and it's on Zoom, so it's not in person, so you can just hop on and, you know, kind of listen into it.
Again, thank you, Stephanie.
Can I make a comment about,
Yeah.
from what Stephanie was just talking about? So, you know, if we go back 1 or 2 slides, Stephanie was saying that, one forward, sorry. She was saying that REMA, RE Mortgage Advisors, has solutions, you know. It just occurred to me that, you know, I just want to remind everybody, like, you know, it's not up to us to have every solution for every client when it comes to real estate questions or needs. But it is up to us to do our best to find the right person for our client to talk to work through solutions. And the reason I say that is because, you know, if we start these initial conversations, we meet somebody in an open house or through our sphere, and, you know, they tell us about a challenging, you know, situation that they're having, and that they don't think, you know, they're not sure that they could get a loan. We don't have to have an answer on the spot. Actually, we shouldn't have an answer on the spot because we're not lenders, right? But we should be able to say, like, let's make a connection here. Let's talk to Stephanie and see, you know, what she can do for you. Or, you know, when we're working on an offer on a property that's maybe in a higher, you know, an environmental zone that's kind of concerning in terms of insurance, we say, you know what, I'd like you to talk to, you know, my colleague and trusted advisor on these issues, Stephen Klein, over at Greystone. And so the idea is, you know, this is fundamental to who we are and our business. We should be making connections. So keep this in your back pocket.
Yeah.
You know, be aware that we have somebody to help us with these things.
And not to mention that Stephanie, REMA is a brokerage, not just a traditional loan office. They have programs for pretty much every single client that you guys got out there. A lot more products than they would get walking into a basic bank.
Same goes for Stephen Klein. He's a mortgage broker, so he's got you're not a mortgage broker? Insurance broker. Sorry. Sorry, brain, what do you call that? My brain exploded inside my head for half a second there. I had a blip. So Stephen is an insurance broker, so he can make the connections with different kinds of insurance products that if you walked into you know, State Farm or something like that, although I don't think you could do that anymore. Office.
You can walk into State Farm offices all day long, but you're only gonna get auto insurance.
Yeah, he can connect you with different people, still giving
Yep.
insurance on homes.
Yep, and again, Steven's gonna be talking a little bit later today and answer all your questions. I know it's kind of a hot topic right now with all of these different insurance companies not renewing and not, you know, taking on new clients. So be ready to ask some questions.
You know, it's a little off track.
Yeah.
But insurance, my brother-in-law works for a State Farm agent, and he's not an insurance agent, my brother-in-law isn't. He goes out when they get a new application to look at the house to see if it will fit their specifications. And they happen to be up in the gold country, so there's a lot of issues with houses over there. The guy he works for has been around a long time, he's incredibly successful. He's got 4,000 accounts. State Farm just cut off 1,000 of his accounts.
Wow.
Including the ones they canceled, the agent.
Oh, man.
Really?
So.
So there you go. It's a good thing that we have somebody like this
So-
floating
so
around.
The only thing the guy's selling now is Fair Plan. Seriously, that's the only thing he's writing is Fair Plan.
So I wonder if we'll hear from Stephen about these things and whether,
Yeah, I'm
whether we
curious
should see
to know.
other insurers come back to the market or not.
Yeah, let's get to Steven because I know he has a lot to talk about. Actually, the mayor was here, I think maybe 4 weeks ago, talking a little bit about Fremont. He actually has a State of the City meeting here at the Downtown Event Center tomorrow from 6 to 7 o'clock, or 6 to 7:30. So if you guys want to go there to know where Fremont is at, go to the Fremont Event Center tomorrow from 6 to 7:30 to see what is going on. Maybe they'll talk about some new housing. But again, after this, I'm going to have him come back to our office and give us a quick update on what he spoke about here as well. But again, tomorrow from 6 to 7:30 at the Downtown Event Center, literally 2 minutes away. And then this Wednesday as well, we have Vicente with KW Advisors. He's going to be coming and doing a Zoom virtual event. He is a Tony Robbins approved trainer. So again, log in at 11 o'clock. This is going to be great. For those of you who know who Tony Robbins is, he's amazing and all his trainers are the best at what they do. So tomorrow, 11 o'clock, we'll probably have it live here at the office as well, if you guys don't want to watch it alone at home. So tomorrow at 11 o'clock, we'll have it here at the office. And the following week, again, this is Stephanie's class that she just talked about, I think. Is this a different class or the same one?
This is the next week one, yeah.
This is next week one. Again, please RSVP so that we know the material to bring and how much snacks that we can afford to bring to you guys. And then the last Friday of the month, we have an Independence Day potluck. Again, these are always fun. I love when you guys all come here and celebrate together and have a good time. So please, if you guys do plan on coming, RSVP, bring some food, let's have a good time. There's always way too much food that I know what to do with, which is always a good problem. But I'm excited to come to this. I don't think I was able to make the last one because of a bachelor's party. So I'm excited to come to this one. All right, I want to recognize some people that Rio Trends showed out recently. For those of you who don't know what Rio Trends is, it is a nationwide real estate statistics company that recognizes agents agents throughout the whole nation. They take specific statistics. I'm not sure what they are specifically, but our office was lucky enough to get some of our agents recognized. And the first one on that list was Abhi, so everybody give him another applause. I'm pretty sure these are top agents throughout the nation that either close a certain volume, receive a certain GCI, or close a certain amount of units that are in terms to their metrics. So again, amazing job, Abhi. Let's continue to keep that work up here for 2025. Imran, he is right now, I think, in another country. He's in Egypt right now. So give him a round of applause. Hans, as always, is on this list. Give Hans a round of applause. He's always amazing. Our very own Pat Cody made the list this year. Good job. Steve Pierce. Were you? Did you? Oh, were you saying? Say hi. Oh, okay, gotcha. And the Medford team. Amazing job, the Medford team. I think, John, you're the only one here today from the Medford team. So congrats to everybody that made the list for Rio Trends. Let's continue to keep this up. Upcoming events. The first thing I want to talk about, not the next team meeting, but the July 15th meeting. David Stark is going to be here. I mentioned this briefly last team meeting, but he is Bay's chief economist. He is going to be coming for a mid-year economic and market update. And with everything that's going on in today's world, if you're going to come to one team meeting, this is the one that you should be at. He pulls all the statistics for the local market here, Tri-Valley and the Tri-Cities, and anything else specific. And he actually comes and provides the PowerPoint for you afterwards as well so that you can bring it to your clients. And if you guys don't want to know how to talk about those PowerPoints to your clients, be here for it. David Stark is amazing. And you can ask him any questions in terms of Bay East as well. But other than that, I actually want to bring Stephen Klein up first before do we have any coming soons? Oh, we actually have a few coming soons as well. Satinder, I don't think you're here, but she has a listing coming up in Fremont, listed at 968. If you guys have any questions, please reach out to Satinder. Prima Mall, did we talk about this one last time at all? All right, you want to talk a little bit about this one?
Yeah, been in touch with the seller for the last 2 years. He finally decided to sell.
All right, well, there you go. Coming soon. Do you know what the price is going to be?
Close to 1.9.
Close to 1.9. All right, well, here in our very own backyard in Newark. G2 seems like he has a garden of some sort for sale, business sale for $218,000 in Murphy's. So if you guys want an investment opportunity, reach out to G2. I think he just walked out for an appointment. And Stephen Klein, you're up. So insurance questions, ask away. It's a hot topic. Just click the arrow.
Cool. Hi, everybody. So real quick, there's no such thing as a 1099 employee. We'll come back to that at the end of this. No such thing. Okay, so for those of you that I don't know or that I haven't met yet, I'm the managing partner of the Greystone Insurance Agency. Greystone is a partnership with KW Advisors. We were founded very specifically, 8 summers ago, by the way, very specifically to help you and your clients with your insurance needs. I do want this to be a dialogue, so if something that you see on the screen sparks a question or interest, please feel free to interrupt. I would much rather this be dialogue than me just vomiting insurance information on you for the next 20 minutes. That's how you contact us. When your clients get into contract, please have a conversation with them about insurance. Don't let insurance be the reason why your escrow doesn't close on time. Some properties take longer to place than others, and we're here to jump on it. If your clients are already working with someone, just encourage them to talk to that person. And if they're not already working with someone, of course, we appreciate the introduction. But I figured today, it's been a long time since we've just done a basic review of just some real useful insurance concepts that I think will help you out in the field. I do want to mention, it's very important, Eddie will agree, it's very important for you to stay in your lane as a real estate professional, right? You are licensed to advise and to guide others on real estate issues, but when they have legal questions, ask them if they need an introduction to an attorney. If they have tax questions, ask them if they need an introduction to a CPA, and when they have insurance questions, please lead them to us, right? Okay, so there are basically 2 types of insurance companies. There are admitted insurance companies and non-admitted insurance companies. Think of the admitted insurance companies as the companies that you're already familiar with. They're the companies that advertise on TV, advertise at sporting events. They've got jingles that everyone knows. In this current climate, I believe that the admitted insurance companies are the ones that have a very vanilla appetite. They like newer, for properties, they like newer homes in the suburbs or away from the city that are updated, or older homes that are updated, or newer homes, things that don't really have any teeth on them, right? And so many of those admitted insurance companies are the ones that have stopped writing new business in California. So fortunately, we have available to us the non-admitted insurance companies. Non-admitted insurance companies are not inherently bad insurance companies. Many of them are wholly owned subsidiaries of the admitted insurance companies that you're already familiar with. For example, Scottsdale Insurance is a company that we use often to write homeowners insurance policies. They're 100% wholly owned by Nationwide, so they're AM Best A+ rated, financially stable. They're a giant company, and generally speaking, nothing to worry about. I believe the reason that these insurance companies set up these non-admitted subsidiaries is so that, or part of the reason is that when there's a widespread catastrophe, it doesn't poison their entire book of business. They can keep those losses contained to a separate business unit, right? And so the non-admitted insurance companies just handle a little bit more risk, right? So as a licensed insurance professional, we are required to try to place properties with an admitted carrier before we go to the non-admitted markets. So if your clients are getting, or if you are getting proposals from a non-admitted insurance company, it's because currently admitted insurance is probably not available. For homes that don't fit in either an admitted or non-admitted insurance company's appetite, there's a California Fair Plan, which I would assume at this point everyone has some familiarity with. By the way, fun fact, if you have one of these bottles and you lose your top, you can use a medicine bottle top and childproof your water bottle.
This guy is a genius. I'm telling you, a genius.
Totally not full of vodka, I swear. So then the FAIR plan is what's available. And just remember, the California FAIR plan is not complete insurance. It does a lot of things, but it does have some holes in it. And so when we write a California FAIR plan policy, we write a complementing policy called the difference in conditions policy. And the idea is that when you've got both of these policies working together, it's intended to very well mimic what would be found in a traditional homeowner's policy. Does that make sense to everyone?
So you end up with 2 policies.
You have to have 2 policies. I mean, you don't have to. Just if you want to think about it real briefly, think about 2 silos. California FAIR Plan does a lot of things, but the most common causes of loss that it responds to are fire, wind, lightning, smoke, and hail losses. The difference in conditions policy also does lots of things. It responds to water losses, theft of personal property losses, claims involving something falling on the home like a tree, and liability claims. Cool. Okay, so why is insurance so expensive? What goes into the ratings? So these are the ratings factors that insurance companies consider when deciding whether or not they want to insure a property and what that's going to cost. So Fireline score is an insurance metric. It's an insurance industry metric that tries to predict an area's likeliness to burn in the future. It's a scale that goes from 0 to 30, with 0 being optimal. So you want a low number here. And historically, most of the admitted insurance carriers would take 6, 7, a Fireline score of 6, 7, 8. But over the last 5 to 7 years, as California has wildfire after wildfire, that number has slowly crept down. And now the admitted carriers are really only taking 0s, 1s, and maybe a 2 once in a while. Yeah, it's kind of nuts. And by the way, there are some insurance companies that aren't even writing 0s. Their appetite has changed such that they're not subscribing completely to the Fireline scores. Look, they're private businesses; they can do what they want. But for example, I live in the LA area, in the flats of the San Fernando Valley. There's no fire danger. There's no crazy danger. Mercury Insurance has stopped writing in my neighborhood 2 years ago, and I have a Fireline score 0. So anyway, but Fireline.
Is there a Y attached
Sorry?
to that? Is there a Y attached to that?
My guess is they're probably oversaturated. You know, one of the basic tenets of insurance is spreading the risk, right? And so when an insurance company becomes oversaturated in an area, they just turn it off. Okay, so the things that contribute to the Fireline score: fuel, how much brush is around; slope, and access, how quickly can a fire department get there to put out the fire; proximity to water and cliffside homes, the foundations could be a rating factor. What I really want to focus on, and you've heard me say it 100 times before, are the system updates. That's really the thing that the insurance companies are focused on now. Because when major systems to a property fail, that's what leads to insurance losses. And so the insurance companies just want to get in front of those issues as quickly as they can. It's been my experience in working with all the KW Advisors agents that typically roofs and heating systems are updated more frequently than plumbing and electrical systems. I assume because those systems are just designed to last longer. We have solutions if a home has an out-of-date electrical system, but I don't know any insurance company currently that's going to offer full water coverage on a home that has pipes that are more than 30 or 40 years old. So when you get into contract, try to have a conversation with the listing agent and see if they have any useful information from their clients about how old the pipes are in the house, if the home's ever been repiped. Not having the information doesn't mean that we can't place insurance, but having the information means that we have more options available. And when we can take it out to market and cast a wider net, hopefully we can get your clients better coverage for less. Stephen.
So if you're working with a flipper and all the properties you're identifying aren't going to pass muster, but they're only going to own it for 3 to 6 months, what insurance is available for them?
So there are policies that will exclude water losses, so you still have fire protection, but you would, if the pipes are 40 or 50 years old, it would either exclude water losses, or they will put a really, really high deductible on water losses, like $100,000, something like that. The age of the dwelling, and then loss history, both loss frequency and loss severity are both rating factors. We spend a lot of time these days talking to our clients. I just had a call this morning actually. I had some damage to my roof from a storm in January. I'm just getting around to repairing the roof now. Does it make sense to file a claim? And the first question that I ask invariably is, how much is it gonna cost you to get out of this mess? And he said, $5,500. I personally believe, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but in this current hard insurance market that we're in, I think that the real value of property insurance is to protect you from financial ruin. Filing smaller claims rarely makes sense, right? Think about it. You have let's not even say it's a $5,500 roof claim. Let's say you have an e-bike that gets stolen, a real nice e-bike, $8,000 e-bike that gets stolen, right? You got a $2,500 deductible on your policy, so you net $5,500, $4,500? $5,500 net on it. And then they increase your premium $700 a year for the next 5 years, because losses stay on your loss history for 5 years. They've given back $3,500 of that $5,500. Is it really worth net $2,000? And you have a loss on your loss history. And most insurance companies have guidelines where if there's multiple losses within a certain period of time, it's an automatic non-renewal. So it really is important. Like, the landscape is changing, just like everything else. The landscape is changing. And so we spend a lot of time just talking it through with our clients just to make sure that it really makes sense to file that claim. Cool. Okay, earthquake insurance. For reasons I will never be able to understand, lenders do not require earthquake insurance in California. Go figure. So when does it make sense to consider earthquake insurance? For my own sensibilities, I think it starts to make sense when you've got more equity than you're willing to lose because there's been an earthquake. What we saw after the Northridge earthquake, way back in 1994, fun fact, I was a student at Cal State Northridge during the Northridge earthquake. That was fun.
All Stephen's fault.
Might be. What we saw after the Northridge earthquake is that people who didn't have earthquake insurance sometimes had, for example, foundations that were cracked. Home got red tagged because you can't live in a house that doesn't have a stable foundation. Now you're paying 2 rents, right? Now you're paying your mortgage and you gotta go live somewhere. And when you're displaced, lots of people are displaced, hotels fill up, rents get really expensive. Over time, holding 2 mortgages or paying 2 rents becomes unsustainable, and a lot of people are just walking away from their homes because they couldn't afford them anymore. So when you've got too much equity to walk away from, I think it makes sense to start considering. What's cool about earthquake insurance, there's a couple things that are cool about earthquake insurance. There's only 3 rating factors with earthquake insurance. It's the size of the home, which dictates how much coverage you need. It's proximity to a fault line, and liquefaction, firmness of the soil under the home. Those are the rating factors. There's a couple ways to buy earthquake insurance. Most people go to the California Earthquake Authority. CEA has 70% market share in California. I personally believe, again, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, I believe you'll have a more satisfying claims experience with a private earthquake insurance company. Most of the earthquake insurance that we place is with a private earthquake insurance company. You might have heard of companies like Palomar or GeoVera. They're the most popular ones. Where you buy insurance might matter. For example, the CEA doesn't cover swimming pools anymore. So if a home has a swimming pool, it's a non-starter for us. We won't even look at the CEA because it's so likely that a swimming pool would have a crack after an earthquake, right? Also, about a year or 2 ago, the California Earthquake Authority stopped providing coverage for breakables. So if you have personal property coverage on your earthquake policy, anything that would be considered a breakable is not covered. What's the point? I think the most likely personal property that you're going to lose in an earthquake is everything in the kitchen. TVs are going to fall off the walls, right? Things will break. Anyway.
What about the damage from the TV falling and destroying your hardwood floor?
It all factors into it, but if that's your only damage, you might not even hit the deductible. Oh, something else. So earthquake insurance policies are distinctly different from homeowners policies by the way the deductible is handled. The deductible on an earthquake policy is a percentage of each line of coverage. I'm pulling this up just because I know that this exists. So imagine in this situation, these are the coverages for a home, and if you select a 10% deductible, the first $55,000 of damage to the home is the homeowner's responsibility before the policy would respond. However, something else I think is really neat about earthquake insurance is that it's not all or nothing. I can very easily foresee a scenario where there's some sort of significant seismic event where maybe there isn't $55,000 of damage to the home. But maybe the home does get red tagged because that foundation gets cracked. It's a smaller home. Maybe it only costs $40,000 to repair the foundation, right? But you can't live in the home while it's being repaired. So you would have loss of use to be out of, the policy would pay for you to live somewhere else while your home is being repaired. With a 10% deductible, you'd only be responsible for $12,000 of that. Are you with me so far?
I have a question. If in an earthquake, let's say a gas line breaks and there's a fire, so who covers the fire?
Excellent question. Did you know that the reason that the Great San Francisco Fire and Earthquake, or Earthquake and Fire of 1906,
Yep.
is called the Great Earthquake and Fire is because the earthquake caused so much fire. The policy that will pay the claim is dependent on the cause of the loss. So if the house burns down, that's a fire claim. Cool. Okay, so flood insurance. If the home is in a flood zone, the lender's going to tell your client that they need flood insurance. Again, there's a couple ways to buy flood insurance. You can buy it through FEMA. The National Flood Insurance Program is a FEMA program. Most popular, widely adopted, and we also work with private flood insurance carriers as well. What I like about private flood is that the policies offer more coverage. So the NFIP will only cover the dwelling and personal property, and it only covers the dwelling up to $250,000. So if a home if we're talking about big homes that are really in flood zones, and there is serious, significant flood danger, that might not be enough coverage, right? But that's all that FEMA requires. That's all the lender's going to require as well. But when you go with private insurance, you can match the dwelling limit to what the home is actually insured for, and you can get all these other coverages as well. With it so far? With me so far? Cool. Okay, so how can Greystone Insurance help you and your clients? We're a full-service agency. We do all things. The first column is personal lines: home, auto, earthquake, flood, landlord insurance, renter's insurance, umbrella liability insurance. Who's heard of umbrella insurance before? Everyone knows it. Who knows how it works? Think of umbrella liability as extended liability limits. The reason it's called an umbrella is because it sits on top of and protects all of your other underlying policies below it, right? So you've got liability limits on your auto policy, liability limits on your homeowner's policy. If you're a landlord, you got liability limits on that policy. If you're ever in a claim situation where those limits are exhausted, the umbrella kicks in for the additional amount up to the value of the umbrella. So if you've got $1 million of liability on your homeowner's policy and $1 million umbrella, in effect you've got $2 million of liability insurance. But umbrella is only liability protection. It does not extend over property limits. Make sense? Cool. We also insure businesses. So many of our clients who are acquiring real estate to help with their wealth portfolio own commercial property and they have tenants. So we insure those buildings, and we also can insure the tenants inside of it. We're industry agnostic. We've got clients from Main Street to Wall Street. We do all kinds of funky stuff in between. I do the funky stuff. If you want to know what a vampire facial is, see me after the meeting. Med Spa, they do vampire facials. Does everyone know what a vampire facial is?
No.
Okay, this is very popular on a TV show, one of those reality TV shows. So
This is you're bringing LA up to the Bay, aren't you? Like any kind
this
of
is how crazy LA is.
insane facial.
Listen how dumb this is. So they draw a unit of blood, they put it in a centrifuge, and they separate the plasma from the whole blood. And then they take acupuncture needles and they stab you in the face 1,000 times, like an acupuncture needle, just enough so a little bit of blood comes up to the surface. Then they take that plasma and they rub it all over your face, and women say it's the best facial they've ever had. And they will spend more than $1,000 for that.
I officially hate humans right now.
But here's what's
Wow.
cool. So I got a client who has a med spa. They do Botox and all kinds of fun stuff. They started doing vampire facials. They're one of the clients that actually listen to me when I say, anytime you think your risk profile is changing, let's talk about it. And so they called me and said, we want to start doing this. Is that a problem for our E&O insurance? Turns out it's not. From an insurance company perspective, if you like shoving needles in people, it doesn't matter what kind of needles you're shoving in them. We also do. We also have a very robust E&O insurance business. So everyone in this room is protected by an E&O policy because you're a licensed professional with a license hung at a real estate brokerage. Real estate E&O is unique in that it is designed very specifically to protect the independent contractors that work at the brokerage. However, the Market Center also has a general liability policy that is only intended to protect the employees, because there's no such thing as a 1099 employee. You're either a 1099 independent contractor or you're an employee. Remember we talked about, remember what I said, the very first thing I said? So each of you are running your own business. BOP stands for Business Owner's Policy. It's a general liability policy that's $500 a year. It protects you from claims of third-party bodily injury and third-party property damage. So if you're ever showing a home, the example I give is you're ever showing a home, by the way, when I give examples, I tend to give extreme examples. I'm not fear-mongering, I promise. You're transitioning from inside the home to outside. You notice that there's a long step. You tell your client, hey, watch your step. They don't hear you, they fall and they get hurt. If they want to make you responsible for their injuries, your E&O policy is not going to protect you because that's just for transactional stuff. And the Market Center's general liability policy is not going to protect you because that's only for employees. You're not employees, you're independent contractors. So you need to have your own BOP.
Well, what about the homeowner's insurance policy on their home?
They weren't even home. What do they have to do with it?
What about an umbrella policy?
I'm confused.
So remember, umbrella is extended liability. It has to extend from an underlying policy. It only extends, right?
So if you don't have this, you have no basis to start to the umbrella.
Your personal insurance, your personal umbrella is only going to protect you as an individual. It's not going to protect you as a professional. I think that's all I got for today.
So condominiums, I think there.
Yeah,
That on the building or on the inside of
both.
of the unit?
We have lots of, I'm doing a condo proposal right now. Condos and apartment buildings are in the crosshairs of insurance companies right now. About 2 years ago, there were 3 insurance companies in California that dominated the HOA and the multifamily space. And within 6 months of each other, all 3 of those companies canceled their HOA programs. And so we've been approached by many HOAs, and those that were with State Farm, Allstate, and Nationwide. Those were the big 3. By the way, for what it's worth, I believe most of the reason why so many insurance policies are getting canceled these days is because the insurance companies recognize that they're just not charging enough for the coverage. And because insurance is a regulated industry, they can't just raise rates indiscriminately. It has to be filed with the commissioner, it has to be approved by the Department of Insurance. And so it's better for them, better for their books just to cancel these policies and get them off the books before claims happen. Think about how many homes that were destroyed. I'm bringing Southern California back into it. In the Palisades fire and in the Altadena fire, so many of those homes were scheduled to be canceled by those companies. They were waiting for the next renewal, the next non-renewal, and now they're paying claims on it. Billions of dollars in claims.
So again, getting back to condominiums, I had a situation recently where my client bought a condo. The building's insured by whoever the heck insures the building. What about the inside? Do you offer that kind of insurance?
Absolutely, yeah.
Walls in or-
Yep, we do the walls in policies all the time, absolutely. Here's something that's interesting that you might want to know. Those walls in HO6 policies are now being underwritten not dissimilarly from a single family residence. The insurance companies want to know when the roof, plumbing, electrical, and heating systems were updated.
I know, in this transaction, I had another transaction where we were selling, this was a buyer, I had another transaction we were selling, and the buyer agent messages me, he said, well, when was the roof done? He said, this is on the 2nd floor, buddy, there's a 3rd floor above it, there ain't no roof.
Yeah.
Or, it's not on this, well, anyway, I just
Yeah,
thought,
yeah.
that's so stupid.
Yes and no. So the reason that the insurance company wants to know that is because if there's a failure of that roof's not well maintained. If there's a roof leak, that could go down 3 floors. That's gravity, baby.
Yeah, but the owner of that condo has no control.
Right, but again, the insurance companies are trying to mitigate their losses before it happens, you know? So, okay, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
I'm hanging out for a little bit if you wanna talk about what's going on your desk, in case you haven't figured it out yet, I love talking about this stuff.
You're gonna be here for a while, right?
I'll be here for about an hour or so.
A little bit? All right,
Yeah.
perfect. Go Buck Steven. And then to end off the day, we're gonna have Eddie come up. But before we have Eddie come up, who here was on the All Advisors call yesterday, from 12 o'clock to 1:30? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
The former deal, yeah.
All right. So I cannot stress enough how important it is to be on these calls. The BRLG, which is our in-house attorneys, and Rick Cunningham, they put on these All Advisors calls to benefit you guys. Yesterday's call was specifically about the new forms release.
Can you stop sharing that?
Yeah.
I can take it from
I
here.
was also
The,
able to
Okay,
get-
you want to take it from here? Okay, perfect.
Marty sent me a recording of it, because I have a doctor appointment, I could not attend it.
All good.
I love attending them.
We're gonna, how do I get hooked up though?
Oh, you just plug it in, and then I'll change the HDMI.
So, first of all, I want to say that was amazing from Stephen, and hopefully, like, we could do like a whole class or something. I would say that I had tons of questions personally about like how it affects the consumer, the difference between admitted and not admitted, et cetera, et cetera. We'll get to it another time. I would say that everything flew out of my head once we started looking at the risk profile of vampires, because that was like. I forgot all my questions.
Vampire
I
facials.
did not know. Nah, I like the idea of it was all about vampires, real vampires in LA, right? There are vampires in LA.
We have werewolves too.
Oh, nice,
Yeah.
awesome. So thank you, Stephen, because that really is valuable stuff. So the yes, as Eric was saying, you know, we do CAR usually does 2 releases a year, and the 1 to 2 releases a year, 1 in December, 1 in June. Almost always in June. And quite often they're kind of like housekeeping revisions, you know, like getting things right, that, you know, forms that we already have on, you know, they learn on the ground that maybe something's a little off and they tweak it. The last several years we've been having like crazy updates with like big substantive changes because of the whole NAR lawsuit stuff. And this was kind of like, this update that we kind of got some info on yesterday is kind of in between those two things. It's a little more than just housekeeping, but it's not as dramatic, like relearning our industry as we've been experiencing over the last couple of years. The forms are going to be kind of made available in a couple of weeks in our Zip Forms library. So I'm just going to show you first the fact that BRLG, I want to tell you, as Pat was saying, BRLG did record this session, so you can reach out to BRLG at brlg.law if you want a copy of the recording, because you weren't able to make it yesterday. But I'm going to go over some of the kind of the bigger changes that they're mostly housekeeping changes too, but they're on docs that we use every day. So I want to just touch on them. But I'm going to show you first, before I do that, before I get into those forms, just so that you have a sense of scope. All of these forms had some kind of change, or maybe they're new forms that got added. So, you know, it is not insignificant, the kind of like breadth of, or the how big a group of forms got some kind of revision. But again, you know, most of the forms function the way they always have, and just have a couple of little pieces that I want to go over. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the RPA got a couple of minor changes, and one of the RPA changes happened because there's a change to a form that we use in conjunction with the RPA in our transactions. So for those of you who have sold in high fire zones over the last several years, we've had a new form for probably 3 or 4 years, the home fire hardening defensible space addendum and advisory. The use for this form, the use for really getting in and digging into this form is triggered by the home being in a high fire area, and we can find out that information from the NHD reports. So there are many of us who sell real estate regularly who probably haven't had to deal with the ins and outs of this form very much, because if we're selling in flat areas without a lot of brush that aren't in high fire zones, it's a non-issue. We don't have to use this form. But I get probably a call every 2 months from an agent who's saying, I'm selling up in the hills somewhere, or somewhere where it's high fire because of the density of vegetation. And they don't have any familiarity with the form, because even though the form's been in existence and required for 4 or 5 years, it's only really required that we dig into the form if we're in a high fire area. So that form exists, and an update happened to that home fire hardening form. So the first thing I want to say is, if you ever have to deal with a home fire hardening form because you're listing a property and you need to get this stuff together prior to the listing and you haven't dealt with it before, just call me, because I know it pretty well and I can walk you through what we need to kind of tell our seller client to do in advance of a listing. But there's been a couple of updates to that form, or one major update to that form, and the major update to that form is that because of legislation, there's now a list of questions being asked of the seller, asking them if they've taken some kind of low-cost efforts to protect the home against potential fire intrusion, fire damage. Because the form has changed to include these questions, our RPA has changed in the section that talks about the form, and the RPA says, hey, now that form that you guys use in high fire zones, there's a list of possible low-cost fire hardening retrofits questions that the client has to answer, the seller has to answer. So just an update that the RPA hasn't changed dramatically. There's just been a couple of these little housekeeping parts. That's the first one. This is the second one. There's a reminder when we talk about compensation in the purchase agreement now that the amount of broker compensation in the BRBC is based on the final purchase price. And that the buyer's broker should not receive, buyers advise that the buyer's broker should not receive compensation from any source in excess of the amount in the buyer rep. And that's always been the case. We've talked about this when we rolled out the buyer rep and the new improved buyer rep agreement, et cetera. We can't put the seller on the hook, or anybody on the hook, for an amount that is in excess of what has been agreed upon by buyer and buyer's agent in that buyer rep agreement that predates all of this. It predates like an offer. So basically what I'm saying is, if the buyer rep says a certain percentage amount, we can't go to another party like the seller and say we want more than that. It's got to match up, and it can't be in excess of what we've got written there. Nothing changes there. That's been the case, but it's clearly stated in the purchase agreement now. And the other thing that kind of got added into this conversation about compensation is that there's a reminder to all parties. It's, because it's the RPA, it's the purchase agreement, it's speaking to both buyer and seller. There's a reminder that if somebody else, like a seller, takes on some of the cost of the buyer's representation, that it offsets the buyer's responsibility. So if the seller pays it, the buyer doesn't also have to pay that obligation. It's being offset by the seller's contribution, right? So that's the basic changes to the RPA. They're pretty straightforward. They're just cleaning up some things. Here's that fire hardening form that I said that we use whenever we're in a high fire zone. A couple of little updates, like adding mobile home transfer disclosure statement as a qualifier, etc. Here is that new. Here are some of actually these questions have always existed, asking the seller client, like, do you know of any vulnerable points in your home? But this is the set of questions that got added to the form per my first point today. The fire hardening form now has a space in it that says, we're going to run you, seller, through a questionnaire and ask you if you've done any of these low-cost things. So it's acting as both a suggestion to the person on the other side, the buyer, the consumer, a suggestion of things that they might think to do in order to make their house less vulnerable to fire, these low-cost options. And in the same time that it's acting as a suggestion, it's asking the seller up front, have you done any of these things? Has this home been improved in any of these ways? The seller, like almost all questions in our questionnaires, is being asked to answer to the best of their ability. these questions are usually, are you aware questions. So whenever that panic sets in of not knowing, the answer is no. Are you aware? No. But it gives kind of like a little background for the buyer who's buying the property. Pretty straightforward. Buyer counteroffers and seller counteroffers, a little piece has been added to clarify the appraisal gap piece of the purchase agreement. So I don't know, 5-6 years ago, we had a purchase agreement update that added a little spot under appraisal to with an appraisal checkbox that said, you know, maybe the buyer is willing to move forward even if it appraises a little bit low, and you could plug in a number rather than making the appraisal contingency dependent on the specific appraised value that the appraiser comes back at. The buyer can kind of game things and say, I have some extra reserves here. I'm willing to keep moving forward, not exercise this contingency if the appraisal comes in, even if it's just a little bit lower, more at this price than that price. Well, our counters are now just kind of making some clarification around that, pointing the seller or the reader back to the contract, saying, you know, if there's an appraisal gap contingency in here, or something's being worked around the appraisal gap, here's where you find it, here's how the appraisal gap works, etc. Just a reminder. Straightforward, just housekeeping, cleaning things up. Here's where things get different in our kind of, a lot of our regular practice. It's with these the addendum or addenda that we use. The reality is that when you're going to change the terms of a contract after you're already in contract, the proper way to do that, if you're talking to any attorney, is to use an amendment of the existing agreement form, an amendment form. For better or worse, or for whatever reason, our real estate community over the whole time I've been in real estate, we tend to grab an addendum form to change terms after we're in contract. Really, an addendum is meant to be attached to a purchase agreement, to highlight other terms of the purchase agreement, to customize other terms of the purchase agreement before it's ratified. That's the actual reality with what an addendum is meant to do. But it fulfills the purpose when it's used once we're in contract rather than an amendment. If you want to get really good and really impressive, you'll start pulling amendment forms, but the addendum is what we find ourselves using day to day. What's interesting about the addenda is that we've had this kind of one catch-all addenda for years. We just grab it and we just number it addenda 1, addenda 2. We use it for everything from updating disclosures to creating new terms, etc. The addenda is being split up into a couple of different addendum. So this is the one we're used to seeing, just the plain old addendum. It now says on it, essentially not to be used to update a disclosure like a TDS or an SPQ. It used to actually have an actual checkbox on the top of the form. And that checkbox on the top of the form, the default always said that it's an addendum to the purchase agreement, but the checkboxes would say, or are you using this to update the TDS, or are you using this to update the SPQ? No more. It actually just allows you the opportunity to update the purchase agreement or a residential month-to-month lease. You know, you can check other if there's something that, you know, a document that we don't use as often, but it says explicitly, don't use this to update disclosures. It wants us instead to use a new form called an APD, an Amendment to Prior Disclosure. So there's this new document that's to be used instead of the addendum to update the TDS and SPQ, the Amendment to Prior Disclosure. Great that we have that now too, because it actually specifically, it's got the same, it's the same kind of idea where you write the property address in up top, you write that it's the, you know, the First Amendment to the TDS or the Second Amendment to the TDS, you check TDS, you write in what the amendment or change is. So all that functions the same way, but there's a reminder on the form about the potential right of rescission that goes along with an updated statutory disclosure. Am I moving too quick? Does everybody remember this from our previous conversations, that statutorily required disclosures like a transfer disclosure statement come along with a potential right of rescission for a buyer? Meaning, we provide, a seller has an obligation by law to provide certain information in their seller disclosures, these statutory disclosures. If they provide that form late, or if they update that form, or if that form has been given and it's not complete, buyer actually has a secret out of a transaction in those circumstances. So it's incredibly important to make sure when you're representing a seller in our market where we front load a lot of this information, that the TDS and SPQ are complete and every checkbox that needs to be checked is checked, that our client has thought about it, because we don't really want to have to fill out amendment later, because we might be giving the buyer a get out of jail free card. Does that make sense to everybody? Along with the amendment. So the actual new form, we used to use this as addendum, the amendment functions the same way. We can update the TDS SPQ, but there's a big old warning that, you know, you need to realize that the buyer's gonna have some time to review this and potentially rescind. We can't hold back information. It is our affirmative obligation to make sure all disclosure is made, make sure our client is making all disclosure. So if we find ourselves in a situation where the TDS wasn't filled out properly and there's something that needs to get added, we gotta bite the bullet and just get it done. It is what it is. But boy, don't you want to get ahead of it, though, in that TDS SPQ conversation with your client about their obligations. You want to say, hey, think of everything now. Don't tell me something 2 weeks ago about how, you know, there's a major problem with the roof, because it could screw us over later if we're in the middle of a deal and we have to kind of come forward with that at that point. So I like this change because it's kind of that constant reminder that, right, we really don't want to have to be amending these documents, but we have the doc to do it. This is the form that I was just mentioning, the amendment to prior disclosure. You're checking that it's the TDS or SPQ, et cetera. You're being reminded of the obligations. You're being reminded of the right to look at the document, the buyer's right to receive and review the documents. And then the third thing that we have, I said that the addendum that we used to use, just that one addendum, got split off. So now we've got this amendment to change disclosures, and we also have a new addendum that is supposed to be used for those terms that we have to update or those nuances that we want to make clear about things like a buyer rep agreement or a listing agreement. So this is usually going to be used between you and our client, between the broker and our client. You'll notice rather than buyer and seller on the bottom, it has principal, 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 principal. You know, Marty said we think of principal as the client, but if you think about a listing agreement, there are two principals, the broker or brokerage and the seller. Those are the two principals. Or if you think of the buyer rep agreement, it's the broker and the buyer, meaning you as a representative of the broker and the buyer. So we're principals to those kinds of transactions, the contract with our client, and this is the form we're going to use to make updates. Now, if we're making an update later in the transaction, like after we've consummated this agreement between buyer and broker or seller and broker, if we're going to update that agreement, we're going to use a modification, the MTLA or MTBR, the way that we always did, to modify the list price or the or the expiration date or whatever. We're going to use the modification. But if we're attaching something to the actual BRBC or to the actual RLA, the moment that we're sitting down with our client because we want to draw out some like longer terms, if this then that, seller or buyer, seller's agent will pay for A, B, and C, staging, blah, 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 and we need more lines, we're going to use this addendum that's going to kind of modify in real time the document. So those are the pieces, the really big pieces that I want to show you. Because I'm out of time, but I got to show you this additional signature addendum. So we've had an additional signature addendum forever, right? But it got updated. The additional signature addendum, for those of you who don't know, is used when, say, we have a purchase agreement, but there are 4 people purchasing, right? Or we have a listing and it's owned by like a whole set of siblings and it's not in a trust, it's actually just individuals owning it and there's 5 people. We don't have enough lines on our documents for everybody who is needed to sign, right? So we always grab this additional signature addendum. It points back to the documents that we're executing and it says that, even though John and Mary signed the RPA, well, Lou and Sam are also signers to that purchase agreement. We put it right here on this form and then they can sign their name. This form has been updated so that we can mix and match some choices and use this form hopefully just once in a transaction if need be. We can check which forms it applies to that Lou and Sam now all of a sudden have to be signatories to, right? So we can say not just the listing, but the purchase and the disclosures. We could check all three boxes and saying where in the places that Sam and Lou's signature had been required this whole time, we're including it in those as well. This comes in the most handy when you're like in a transaction, you're like 5 days in, and you find out that even though two sellers have signed it, that they just found out, or title just found out that two other sellers, maybe their siblings or something, have to sign all documents. Well, then we're in this situation where they haven't signed the purchase agreement, maybe they haven't signed the listing agreement, maybe they haven't signed any of the disclosures, because we're all just finding out that they need to sign. We could check just 3 boxes here and say that their signature here is their signature on those required documents. So super handy.
I had a question on
Yep.
that, if I may ask.
Yep.
When you send this for DocuSign,
Yep.
would you preferably also send the actual document that those two original
Ah,
principals signed? So
Absolutely.
they get to look at that, what they're signing to.
That's good. Well, first of all, we never ask somebody to sign something that they haven't reviewed. And this is essentially them signing that document. It's just another piece of paper. But that's good agenting or good brokering. Don't just send it to them here and then later send them this. Put things together. We have to make all of our messaging clear. When we're in a mediation or some kind of dispute later, that's just the kind of thing that, a lawyer who's doing their best to just find something to latch onto is going to latch onto. They're going to say, you sent this in isolation. They didn't know what they were signing and agreeing to. But if we have a DocuSign envelope or an email that's got it all smushed together, then, you can't make that argument.
No, I just got done with 5 years of really long lawsuit.
Mhm.
Getting documents into admission
Mhm.
is a whole different ballgame, so that's why, just something fresh that I thought might as well. throw in.
Thank you for that. And it
Well,
is
says
exactly.
right there, number 3, by signing below, the undersigned acknowledges receipt.
Yep.
So clearly, you have to send them something to acknowledge receipt of that.
Well, that was my earliest, the first thing I responded to is, of course, they're signing that they've seen something, right? But best practice is put them together, right? Because we don't want to give anybody any wiggle room to say, when did you send that? Did they have any memory of it? Because a lawyer, John, is going to say, yeah, I understand the signed of receipt thing, but when did that get sent and how are they, they're a layperson. They don't know what they're
Well,
signing.
the way I interpret that is acknowledge receipt, I mean, right now, not. some
Oh,
other
in
time, right now. Yeah.
exactly. Let's not leave ambiguity. So I think we're all on the same page then. And then actually, this is great too, because this is something, like those of us who worry about these things, this is something I've always wondered, like what we're supposed to do about. We have these pieces in our contract, like liquidated damages and arbitration, that are meeting of the minds clauses, meaning the purchase agreement isn't fully kind of consummated until we figure out what we're doing with these 2 paragraphs, liquidated damages and arbitration. So for years I've been saying, have them go back and initial liquidated damages or arbitration on the purchase agreement, let's make clear that they understand, et cetera. Now the form actually attaches for those additional, whenever purchase agreement is checked on that first form, we know that a purchase agreement always comes with this question about liquidated damages and arbitration. So it's going to get all their signatures right here on the page again. Clear as day, doing great. And then the last thing, I think this is the last one, sorry for keeping you late, Seller in Possession Advisory, the SIPA. So we do a lot of these days. We have these situations where maybe mom and pop want to stay at the property that they're selling for another 30 days after the close of escrow date because they got to get their stuff in order or whatever. Our preference always as a brokerage, any risk management attorney and any broker is going to tell you this in the Bay Area, our preference is always, if somebody needs a little extra time, a seller after close, that they do a seller in possession, meaning 29 days or fewer, not 30 days or more, which is a residential lease after sale. Anybody want to give a guess why that's a strong preference of attorneys and brokers?
Litigation, tenants' right.
tenants' rights, right? 30 days or more, tenants' rights. Like there's this implication that they're more than just somebody with license to use the property, that they're actually a tenant. So the clever language is we're calling this just some temporary license to use the property for 29 days, seller in possession. So just had to get that kind of on the side and out of the way. We do a lot of these SIPs, this license to use the property, but we've never had a good form to describe to all parties where the potential risks in that could be. We're going to keep doing them. They're convenient. People like them. But we want to know that the buyer who's going to become the landlord at close of, or not the landlord with a license, the licensor at the close of escrow, we want them to know, here's the ways that this could be a little bit risky for you if the person doesn't vacate after the 29 days, if they stay 30, 31 days, and then just kind of trip into tenancy, et cetera, et cetera. Great form, great addition, brand new. It's going to get automatically attached when we have an SIP. Everybody sick of me yet? Because I'm sick of me. But that's that's like Eddie's quick run through of his hour-and-a-half course for the things that I know we use every day. You go look at the course, read everything, but this is the stuff we use a lot. So.
And again, the BRLG recording has been sent out or will be sent
Yeah,
out.
I don't know, I've got it yesterday.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
So, yeah.
without even requesting it, you got it?
No, I requested.
Requested. Usually they send recordings by request. brlg@brlg.law, not .com. brlg@brlg.law. Just say, could you send me a recording of that forms update class, and they'll send you. You can watch it in your time.
All right, any
Okay.
questions for Eddie or?
I just have a question on those forms. Why was the last one in blue and not red?
I know.
Yeah. Oh, good, John.
Great.
I watched the thing. The red was changes to existing forms. The blue is a brand-new form that they're still working on.
So the
Blue is maybe
Yeah.
changed before the form actually comes out.
Okay.
We always get a red-lined version of forms when they are updated.
Yeah.
The red-lined version is, here's your 20-page form, here's the actual newly inserted language or changed language. So that form, as John is saying, never existed before. So nothing's going to be red on it, but there are pieces that they're still working on, and also there are substantive pieces that they want to draw your attention to in the blue.
It's still one after
So.
24 hours.
All
We're good.
right.
All right, thank you,
Well,
everybody.
Eddie's gonna be here for a little bit, I assume. Stephen Klein is also here with insurance. If any of you guys need anything, please ask them. And thank you guys all for coming to our team meeting today.
Because I'm.
Do you?
Not this coming weekend, but the following weekend.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's new for you. That'll be a new experience for you.
It's Gabby's birthday today, by the way, if you guys didn't know.
Quick question for you. My daughter-in-law lives in,
928.
up in the hills, right? So she was backing up in San Diego. And then the person who was coming from the hill,
If I didn't respond, I
whose fault, my
You
son's
sent me a
fault.
text. No, I read text.
Whatever the insurance company says.
The insurance company told my son to find,
What day?
whose fault is it?
What do they decide?
I don't know, it's kind of, very kind of
Sounds like it might be 50-50. I don't know. I've seen it go. I've seen everything. Just when I think, yeah, right. Well, there is a 50-50, right? So if two cars are backing in, if two cars are going, it's very common like in parking.
Yeah, she was backing up from her driveway and then.
They might just do 50-50.
Facing toward the one who's turning down.
I would have thought, yeah, I would have thought. Again, as a layperson, I just always thought like the same way that I have to pull on my brakes, even if you're an ass, and I back it into you.
Yeah.
It's up to me because I'm the one looking forward to you, but assumptions, you make a lot of assumptions.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, claim eligibility.
Oh, yes.
And the discretion of the claim adjuster. Everybody's trying to get an hour rule that's just to help them see it a different way if we think they're not seeing it right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get
It's
The
unfortunate.
insurance told her there's a fine print on this one.
Yeah, there's always fine print.
Yeah, I know.
Steve, that's good.
Without giving me the file, can I get it?
Just send an email.
to kwadvisors@greystone.com, just send us the address and we'll get you a preview.
So if I have a buyer who wants to like find the rental analysis on the cost.
Steve, what room do you work in instead? This one, right?
Right there.
You're not right.
No, I'm over there, and I have to go there now, plug in and charge my phone.
Because we're not an insurance company, we're the broker, you know. Insurance companies sometimes have that too. I mean,
But they ask for me.
So
if I
when it comes to
bring in
you,
and-
you'll be
So
on both
I
sides.
cannot give you.
So when it comes to that, again, it's fully up
for
to
your email.
you negotiate.
Okay.
Usually,
Somebody
obviously,
texted
our
me
this
because
side
they're having issues
standard is
with,
2.5% or 5%. But if you're double funded, 2%, and this is 2.5%.
they came back
That's just
with,
standard. And yes, if you're double funding the deal, you're going to be able to
USAA,
knock down the percentage, so it's not.
so, oh, you do, first you know about it,
Because-
you live with it also?
it's a closed ecosystem. They're like
So in
all
terms
states, State
of
Farm, like,
commission.
you have to buy it from USAA.
Come in, something a little bit more.
Here's what a lot of people don't, here's what a lot of people don't know about USAA. USAA, three prices, active military get the best
She
rates.
said, okay.
Yeah, right here, in this very space.
So again, this is 2.5.
Retired military get the next best rates, friends and family get the next rates.
She said he left theirs for 2 even.
I mean, from
I'll have to reread her text
Yeah.
and see if that's what she.
Yeah, USAA is great, people love USAA, their service is second to none, but they don't always have the best rates, and their appetite is very limited right now. Believe it or not.
Again, that's not up to me.
Everybody's is very limited.
So that's up for you.
Greystone, we write everything.
Okay.
But if you are to lower one side or the other, you're gonna be 1.5% on this side, 1.5% on that side. But again, regardless, when you lower your percentage, just email me.
How's Mrs.
You know,
Crazy,
Colbert?
awesome,
Crazy.
very busy. I've got a deal that is
Not
a
you,
major
I'm asking you
fall.
about you.
Listen, hi.
Pardon me, I asked you about your wife.
Oh, how's Lisa? So, you know.
I said Mrs. Colby Beer.
Oh, I didn't, anyway, it's difficult. You know, losing her father, I mean, it's a big deal. So she's got a commitment.
I didn't know
to
that.
stay. Did she lost that her dad died?
I didn't know that.
Oh,
When did that happen?
May 27th. We've been back and forth to Florida 3-4 times.
Oh, I didn't know that, I'm sorry to hear
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, he was sick.
Sudden? He was sick.
He was in the hospital for 2 months at the end, and 5 times since November, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And at the end of the day, it just,
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
it's been awful. And she's made this commitment to leave college. So we go to the morning, she goes to the morning meeting on Zoom, and we happen to be at a synagogue that's very active. They actually have a daily morning menu, which is pretty incredible. Many don't.
Really?
But, yeah, many.
Really?
Yeah.
I figured.
Some of them have it 2 days a week, some of them only don't do it at all, some of them send you, Chabad does a daily one.
Of course they do.
Anyway, but we came back from Florida, and you know, it's just been tough, right? You know, she's weepy and she's not really able to focus on work, and you know, trying to figure out, you know, how different things are gonna be. So,
They're gonna be different.
yeah. You know, and her father was in Florida, so we would go back there, we would talk to them before he got sick, we talked every weekend, and after he got sick, we were talking almost every day. And all that is just stopped, you know, and it's changed the dynamic of her relationship with her stepmom that she's always had a troubled relationship with, and it's changed the dynamic of her relationship with her sister, who she's always had a troubled relationship with. And, you know, in some ways, I think for the better.
Yeah.
Her stepbrothers have stepped up finally and are taking responsibility for their mom.
Okay.
You know, because there's been a lot of, Lisa had some challenges in previous years when she would go to take care of her dad, and the crazy stepmom would just be herself and cause all kinds of problems.
So-
This is an 80-year-old lady with an addiction to painkillers and antidepressants.
Oh,
Like
Florida's
a terrible addiction.
Oh, she get all the hillbilly heroin she wants in
And
Florida.
you go to her condo and there's every drawers are full with meds. I mean, this is how bad it is. And of course, she's incredibly smart and incredibly manipulative, so she gets doctors to prescribe stuff to her, care providers to look the other
Well, I don't
way.
think Florida has like a database where you can like you can just shop pharmacies. Like you can shop doctors and shop pharmacies, and there's no database that's controlling the information.
The Medicare in Florida is so discouraging for both her and my father-in-law around coordination of care. There's no coordination of care there.
fucking Florida.
But it's not like we're much better here, but there's better coordination of care inside. I work Kaiser members.
Yeah.
And the coordination of care is I would say 70%.
Yeah.
You know, it's not perfect, it's got problems, but I know that every doctor I see has access to everything in my file from every other professional in network. And it's such a huge network that I don't rarely ever have to go out of network. So the coordination of care is high, but in Florida, one hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing.
Right.
And it's awful.
Staging is.
Well, that's very cynical.
Hi, Stephen Clark. Nice
So,
to meet you.
yes, exactly right. Very true. So I gotta look at this. There's that. In addition, she's got a friend in Israel. So she's all continue worried about what's going on
My
there.
sister was supposed to be there in 3 weeks. She's like, nope.
I think it has so much dangerous potential to get way worse before it gets better. I mean, even this morning, Trump is pushing, you know, doing his thing.
You know, what's amazing to me is this is now the second major assault on Israel in the last, let's call it 2.5 years.
Yeah.
In both times, the world, Israel has civilian casualties. We go after military targets, they go after civilians.
Yeah.
Get it, man.
So the G7 announcement came out, and I thought it was better. It was better than I expected. It was pretty definitively anti-Iran. You know, and you know, I am absolutely no fan of Netanyahu. But if Iran was on the verge of nuclear power, nuclear weaponry, and if there was reason to believe they would aim them at Israel, which seemed reasonable to me, then you know what? You may have done the world a favor, right?
Well,
But I don't like it.
Did you see that Pakistan said if one nuke hits Iran, they're launching nukes in Israel? Did you see that?
No, I didn't, but it doesn't surprise me. I don't think that Israel is gonna use nukes. They're not gonna be the first one. Look at how surgical their strikes have been. They already have everything they want. They got control of the airspace. I mean, you know, they can just go in. They could do so much worse than what they're doing. They're showing incredible restraint, I would argue, because if you look at the way this war is waging, you can clear that Iran is not winning this war, right? With their popping these missiles in Israel, 95% of them get kicked out of the sky.
That's the reason for the offensive, because they didn't want Iran to ever be in a position to win anything.
Yeah.
Like,
So, you know, but it's still really stressful. Lisa has a friend there, she's a friend who's gone. So there's that, you know, and of course, she's no fan of our current domestic political situation either. And so, you know, I say to her, well, we can drive by these protests and look at the signs and wave and honk our horn, but that's not really doing anything. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? You know, there's no answer, right? Does she really want? I mean, the only thing I can think of is to harbor an illegal in your house, right? I mean, there's obviously more. I donate to the ACLU because I believe in the rule of law, and the ACLU, despite its anti-Israel leanings, is still fighting for rule of law. And so, you know, no organization is perfect. I'm reading a great book about this right now. It's called High Conflict, and it's really good. She talks about how one of the reasons why conflict gets out of control is because of the human dynamic of us them, and this need to understand complicated world. And so, but the world isn't complicated. The world is more complicated than that. There's all kinds of shades of gray. But if you have shades of gray, then you might have an understanding of your. So you can't make everyone else to be evil if there are shades of gray. You can only make them to be evil if you make it black and white. So that's one of the arguments. And the other argument that I think is really powerful is the idiot driver syndrome. So you're driving a car down the road and someone cuts you off. You're going to swear and bitch at them and they're a jerk and where do they get their license and blah, 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 blah. But if you cut someone off, you've immediately making all these excuses for yourself, right? Oh, I'm sure they'll understand. I was on the way. I had this stress going on, blah, 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 blah. Right. She talks about that in this book, too. But she talks about how easy it is to get into this us-them trap, to get into this conflict trap, and have it perpetuate because of the human psychology of it. It's a great book.
I
great book.
wonder if the us-them dynamic is learned or innate.
I think